Good evening, everybody. This is Chris from Country Boy Cryptids, and I'm here with my special guest, the first guest on my show, Mr. Dennis Carroll. Uh,
How you,
we're going to
how
talk
you
some
doing?
paranormal and some demonology. Dennis, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I have been interested in the paranormal my entire life. I can't remember a time when I wasn't involved in it. Uh, I go way, way back with it. I'm about 55 plus years into it now, and it never gets old. But I had some personal paranormal experiences when I was very, very young, and that kind of lit a fire under me to find out more about what I experienced. And when I got into the paranormal, it led me down to many different avenues, different roads, you might say, in my life that I went down. I got interested in UFOlogy, demonology, spiritual research, Earth light anomalies, any kind of mysteries. I even like crime mysteries, serial killer type things have always interested me. I'm a big fan of anthropology. Anthropology to me is one of the best sciences. And then I especially like the aspect. Well, I've always been interested in archaeology and astronomy as well. But all these things kind of met at the crossroads of the paranormal for me. They kind of piqued my interest in a lot of different ways. I began to learn more about the grimoires and alchemy. You know, alchemy and the grimoires are directly tied in, of course, with demonology. I'm going to say something here, Chris, at the beginning, what we're going to talk about a little bit tonight, and we're going to get into a dark subject here, okay?
Yeah,
And I want to warn people that when you talk about these negative things, you can expect some negativity maybe to show up. You never know, but it sort of attracts negativity like iron filings to a magnet. That's just the way it goes, and that's why in demonology, our number
yeah,
one rule in demonology is do we try not to ever, if not if necessary, if possible, actually mention the names of demons because that supposedly will get their
uh huh,
attention, and that's one thing we don't want to do. They kind of hold that is the way that the Native Americans are with the skinwalkers. They don't like to talk about the skinwalkers that much because it will get their attention, and we don't definitely want to do that. But I
right.
want to say this: I've met a lot of people. You can read a couple of books on demonology and say, "Oh, I'm a demonologist now," But now you can do that with a lot of different subjects. People do. But that doesn't make you that. Like I say, for many, many years, I have been in the actual field of actual spiritual warfare for these things, and you learn a lot that way. I have actually participated in exorcisms, although I don't do exorcisms myself
Yeah,
per se. Really, it's not what you see in Hollywood. You have a team of mainly mostly pastors who come in to do an exorcism. Not just one person will take this on. It takes a team. It's a team effort, and it may take months. It's not over. It's not over and done with in an hour or so. These things are very deep, deep spiritual warfare type
yeah,
stuff, and it goes on, and it's very dangerous. And that's why I caution people out there that's listening to us tonight: be very careful when you make inroads into this type of stuff because it can be not only physically dangerous but spiritually dangerous as well. So you have to be very cautious and know what you're doing. Many times, and I warn this about a lot of the so-called ghost hunters out there. I've never called myself a ghost hunter. I look upon it more as spiritual research because it's not just about ghosts. But you have to warn them because you need to know exactly what you're dealing with, and these demonic forces, these spirits, can many times, Chris, mimic human spirits to fool you into believing something that's not necessarily true.
uh
And that way they can establish a rapport with you, get into your life, and really make your life a living hell after that. I mean, that's what they'll do, and that's their job, and they do it very well. They take pride in their job. You won't say that, but you've got to be careful what you're dealing with. things, because this is very, very dark stuff, very dangerous stuff. And like I say, I'm not going to pull any punches tonight. I know people 6 foot under right now that were put there by these forces. This is nothing to play with. This is very serious stuff. Although
Yeah.
the many attributes of it can be very freaky and hard to understand, but that's just the nature of the beast, as they say. You know. But the
Yeah.
grimoires and all that, they go back. Demonology goes way back. But now, real true, I don't really call myself a demonologist that much. A real true demonologist is sanctioned by the Catholic Church. They actually are designated as demonologists. Although you can call you are involved in demonology. You are more or less sort of a demonologist. But the real true demonologists in the world are sanctioned by the Catholic Church, just like the true exorcists are sanctioned by the church as well. Of course, other denominations, many other denominations, used to recognize this a lot more than others, certain denominations. Um, it's being a more like a spiritual, moral sickness that people can contract, just like you would in many ways contract pneumonia or something. But this is
Yeah.
a spirit thing, a sickness of a spiritual nature.
Yeah. Yeah. I did a little bit of looking up today. Well, I've been looking into it, but yeah, I was looking into some stuff, and I it's really kind of, I know you probably shouldn't read about it, but it's really interesting. I mean, it
And
goes clean
that's
back to what
fascinating.
I can't say Mesopotamia times
Hmm.
that this all started.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
and King,
demons, Chris, the demonic is very well organized. You may have seen that in your research.
yeah,
They're very well organized, just like we talked about the other night about the angels being organized. So are the demonic, the guys on the bad guys. They're just as well organized, and maybe in some aspects, a well-oiled machine that runs throughout our societies and throughout all of the aspects of our lives, not just the industrial, but military, government, and all of this. We're not going to get that deep into that tonight, but
no,
it
no,
goes
yeah.
far, far. It's far-reaching stuff,
Oh,
but
very.
and it's scary to think about because of the inroads it makes. I've said that we've talked about the threat of China to this country and of Russia as well is
Yeah,
nothing compared to the demonic forces that are at work, and they are behind what we just mentioned there. Definitely. I've often said this, and I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm not a drama queen, but um, when you look at the evil in this world, and I've seen a lot of evil in this world, unfortunately, I've had to deal with it in many aspects. There's something else there, Chris. There's a shadow behind that evil
oh
that's
yeah,
that's kind of motivating it and driving it, and getting it to do the things it does. I've looked into the eyes of serial killers and saw nothing but pure inhuman evil looking back at me, and
wow.
and and I could tell that's the shadow that we're talking about. That's behind not only crime and murder and all these other bad things that happen, but all behind the governments of the world, behind the organizations that are out there, many times behind individuals that's driving all of this darkness. You know,
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. Like I said, it's kind of interesting the history of it. That's what I was getting. Like King Solomon, I was like, wow. I mean,
yeah,
he's got some
and it's
pretty
deep,
crazy
very
stuff.
deep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I couldn't believe it when I started looking into it. I was like, wow. And you was talking
Uh,
the other night about the
no,
angels having different levels. I
well,
guess the
I've
demons
had
can.
people say, ask me, so no, Dennis, you need to write a book on this. I am actually writing one on it. But I said,
Uh
my
huh.
goodness, it would take a library, not just one book, to cover
Right.
all. It's that big, it's that deep. You might begin to scratch the surface with one book.
Yeah.
which is what I hope to do. But I'm writing a book right now that's called The Demon Factor Beyond the Edge of Supernatural Darkness. And I've been working on it for several years now because this is, like I said, this is not just uh, something you can just research in an hour and say, "Oh, I know all about it."
Right.
You
Right.
can't do that. Yeah, it takes years to really go into this. That's like I said, you can't just read a couple of books and say, "Oh, I'm a demonologist now."
Right.
You're gonna get in trouble doing that, definitely.
Right. Yeah.
I was uh, I was telling a friend of ours the other day, Chris, Mr. Nighthawk, that
Uh-huh.
I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm a demon fighter. I'm a demon, warrior. I'll go out and kick their butts." But it turns out it goes the other way. They're the ones that get kicked, and
Right.
because they really issue them a challenge that they really better not put out there.
Right. Right. I even found a thing on here today. They was talking about the Carmelites. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. From the 1400s, there was a big scandal from the Roman Catholic theologists. They were
Hmm.
summoning these demons to ask questions, and I guess
Hmm.
it got him in trouble. I guess. I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah. And here's why I've told people before, you can't, when you come up against these forces, you got to remember you are vastly intellectually outmatched because these things have existed for untold centuries. They have accumulated. The angels of God, the holy angels, were actually first called the Watchers. That was their name. That was their designation. They were sort of the supervisors of the universe. It was their job to make sure the cosmos ran correctly, and they watch and learned everything. Their intellects are vast, and when they fail, and as the Bible says, they lost their first estate, they are now corrupted. These demonic forces, they're no longer the bright, shining light beings that they were. They're now corrupted, dark, and evil, and ugly, and their intellect has been thrown over. Although they're still incredibly smart and vastly intelligent, they're slanted more towards an animalistic and evil way about what they do, more so than a bright, shining, and intellectual way. There's a healthy intellectual and an unhealthy intellectual, and they are the unhealthy intellectuals because they have corrupted themselves. They have overthrown their intellect, their reasoning. That's why the Bible says about these evil spirits that they are forever placed under chains of everlasting darkness. They can never get redeemed. They'll never ask for forgiveness. They'll never be sorry for what they do because they are completely lost spirits, lost souls. Sometimes human beings get in that situation, Chris, and become lost souls.
oh yeah.
And those are the most dangerous. Those are the serial killers we're talking about here. They are the most dangerous of human beings because they have nothing to lose anymore. They don't care. They just don't care about anything at all anymore. They are very dangerous, and the demons are much more dangerous than that
Do you
because they've lost what they originally had.
do you think that like serial killers, uh, how can I put this? Are they possessed or is it just something in their mind that snaps? You know?
Well, here's the interesting thing about that, Chris, and I've had a lot of people. That's why it's so hard to get exorcisms done nowadays, because we don't know where true mental illness begins and ends with something.
Yes. Yeah.
But the demonic, now here's the tricky thing, Chris. The demonic uses and gets behind mental illness and hides behind it, uses it as a tool. So we don't really know if you need a psychiatrist or you need an exorcist or both.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you don't know what's going on with that. Although I think a lot of these serial killers had mental defects, or there was something off there that wasn't right. But they fell into a darkness where the demonic got behind that and made it even worse. Took over their lives in many aspects, and they were the driving force behind what the evil that they're doing, and that happens a lot. There are many ways that these demonic forces, Chris, will approach you. They can oppress you, they can possess you, and they can just attack you. There's different ways that they will go about what they do. But here's the interesting thing. Like I said at the beginning of this broadcast, negativity breeds negativity and attracts negativity. So if you live in an evil, dark, negative life, and you like doing drugs, alcohol, and you're going down, you're getting base, and if you're in
Yes.
that situation, you're open to these forces. You have opened the door wide open for these things to come in, and they are opportunists. They never fail to take an opportunity if they're given one, and that's the bad thing about it. And if they take that opportunity, they can come in and not only attack you or oppress you. Oppress you simply means pushing against you, trying to force you, trying to get an influence over you. But then if they possess you, then you're not driving your car anymore. Somebody else is behind your steering wheel. It's
Right,
not you
right. Yeah.
anymore. Yeah.
What was I supposed to say here? Yeah, and I see there was like there's different types uh of like possession. There's like obsession, oppression, suffering, infestation, possession, and subligation. Is that how am I saying that right?
Mhm. Well, let me tell you this: the demonic can attack you in four different ways. Mainly four. There's other ways they can do it too, but the main four ways, the strongest points that they use, they can attack you spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Because these four things make you you. People must understand that you are a living soul. Although you have a spirit, you have a mentality, an intellect, you have an emotions, and you have a physical part of you. And all of this combines to make you, Chris, you. That makes you a living soul. A lot of people get that mixed up. They think the soul and the spirit are the same thing. No, no, no. They're not. They're different things. But anyway, you have a spirit, and your spirit will live on forever in whatever form of energy it may take beyond this existence when it goes there. Einstein once said that all energy never dies. It just takes on some other form, but it goes on. It goes on forever. And you are a spiritual type of energy that way. Your soul is, um, your being. And these things will attack you in these ways because those are your strong points, or should be your strong points. If you're weak in any one of them, that's where they're gonna attack you. If tonight you and me, Chris, wanted to, let's say, attack a house, and we wanted to get in there and get in this house, we would look for what? Its weakest point, whether it be a window or a door or a ceiling or whatever. Well, that's the way
Yes.
these forces work the same way. And if you're like down and you got a mental problem, or you got a spiritual problem, or health problem, or emotional problem, that's where they'll come after. Just like dogs on a scent, on a hunt, or
Hmm.
sharks to blood. That's what they'll come after. And you've got to be sure and be careful. And that's what I tell about people. Work on these four things most of all and make them strong, keep them strong, and you won't have any problems. And how do you do that? You do it by a lot of times by your mindset, the life that you live, the way that you deal with things. If you do it on a positive footing and you have faith in God or a higher being, whichever you believe, if you have faith, this shores you up and makes you stronger. It makes you a warrior, not a victim. And we all want to be warriors, not victims, because these things are looking for a victim. And we don't want to be a victim waiting to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. Now, when it comes to the paranormal, because I know you study the paranormal, you go out, you do investigations and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, is a lot of the paranormal demons, or is there a big difference between a ghost and say a demon?
Well, before you go into an investigation and coming out of an investigation of any type, I even do this with cryptid investigations.
Uh huh.
It's best to prepare yourself, protect yourself, going in and coming out. You do this by an act of faith. You do this by praying or asking for a blessing and all this. Going in and coming out. Even as a former law enforcement officer, I'm going to blow your mind with this. I even had my bullets in my gun blessed
Oh my God.
because I didn't want them to be used the wrong way. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
And I
right,
wanted them to
right.
be behind that. But
Yeah.
and I stress this point to investigators a lot. Please protect yourself. Going in and coming out. You don't want to take anything home with you. You're definitely.
Hmm.
You got kids at home, you don't want to expose them to that. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
you've got to be very, very careful of what you do. But now, when I approached the investigation, I've been attacked many times by demon forces. I could tell you stories, sit here and tell you stories from here to dawn. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, you protect yourself as best you can. That's what you do. That's the only thing you can do. But like I say, it is an act of faith. You got to have faith, and it puts that shield on you, that hedge around you, that will keep these forces at bay. But many times in my investigations, Chris, especially in spiritual investigations, I didn't go in there to try to talk to Uncle Bob, who's been dead for 4 years, and find out what the lottery number is next week or whatever,
Right.
or what the weather is on the other side over there. I
Yeah.
didn't go in for that. Most of the time, 9 times out of 10, I was poking to see what was there. You got to understand. You got to be careful and understand what you're dealing with, and then you can take it from there. If you think you're dealing with a human spirit, or a malevolent spirit, or a demonic spirit, or whatever's going on here, or some kind of elemental spirit, you need to know what you're dealing with in order to address it that way. Because if you don't, you're just like poking around in a dark room with a blindfold on. You don't know what you're going to hit. So it's very, very important that you realize what you're dealing with many times. So that's what I was doing there, and teams that I was with were doing. We're not, you're not just there to. I'm gonna tell you this. I can make this statement to you right now without doubt. I know that ghosts exist. I've seen them. I
Hmm.
know that demons exist because I've seen them. If you can't believe the evidence of your own eyes, what can you believe? But I
Right.
have seen these things. I've seen them, and I know they are there, just as real as you and I are here tonight. Without a doubt, I don't need evidence for that. I've said this many times, Chris. As a paranormal investigator, whatever it may be that I'm investigating, my job is not to convince you of anything. It's not to get evidence. Hey, look at this. You got to believe this. That's not my job. My job is not to convince you of anything. I believe what I believe. I know what I know because I found out what I need to know. Okay.
Yeah.
You may never believe what I could show you tomorrow. I could show you a picture of me and Elvis and Bigfoot standing together, and you would never believe that, of course. You know,
Hmm.
you're not gonna believe. But you can have the best evidence in the world, and 99.9% of people in this world are not gonna believe it. So why are you banging your head up against the wall? Okay. The
Yeah. Sure.
reason, the
Yes, sir.
reason, the reason that you get evidence, that you try to collect evidence, is for scientific purposes to understand what it is you're dealing with. Make a record of it for future generations. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We need to transfer information between ourselves to understand the things that we've experienced and what we've seen. But it's not trying to convince each other of anything, okay? Our own research should do that, not somebody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 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 I understand you there. Yeah. I was a little kid. I was probably all 9 or 10 years old, and the neighbor across the street, there was an old house next to him. Probably about 30 yards away from his house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one day we went in there, and we all went down to the basement. Well, they locked me in there, and I swear to God, it's the scariest I've ever been in my life. Because I mean, this was it would have been back in the '80s, and uh, I believe that it was satanic cult was in there because there. But you never know, kids will be kids. But it was like 666 drew on the wall. There was candles that was like that had been burnt and melted in there, and like the pentagram and all that stuff. Scared the
Yeah,
it scared the hell out of me. I mean, I cried and
I
bang,
don't doubt. Yeah.
you could feel that evil in there, I guess. But they finally tore it down.
Well, that's what you can run into sometimes, Chris, and I've run into this many times. There are people, foolish people out there, that think they can call these forces up and control them, which is really it ends
Hmm.
up being the other way around. They control you, and you don't control
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
That's what the grimoires are all about, raising demons. To raise a demon, I've had people tell me. I had a girl tell me one time that my best friend was a demon. He would give me anything I wanted, but he always came with a price, and
Oh
that's the
yeah,
way the demonic works. You may think you'll get something from them, but you'll pay a very bad price for it. Um, and that's just the way they operate. That's their modus operandi.
yeah,
So these people foolishly call up these demons and get in touch with these demonic forces to get things, to get riches, to get power, to get revenge on other people, or whatever the case may be. Um, you're dealing with some really, I'm gonna say the old proverb. You're handling fire here, okay? Because you can get badly burned or destroyed by these things
right.
because they're not there. I'm gonna put this most of the time, and I'm gonna say that's 100% of the time. They're not there to help you in any way. They're there to get you. They're there to control you. They're there to do something to you, not the other way around. They're not going to do that. They may try to appear that they're your good friend or they're going to help you or your spirit guide or whatever you name you want to lay on them. But
Yeah.
eventually they're going to lead you down the path to destruction. That's just what it's all about. Yeah, I had a woman contact me one time, and I have counseled people all over the world about these demonic things. You wouldn't believe the places that in India, Rio de Janeiro, England, Alaska, and all over the world, these things pop up.
Hmm.
But I had a woman tell me one time, said, I've got some demons in my house, and they told me that they're okay, and can I live with them? I said, yeah, you might not live very long with them, uh, because they're not good. They're not going to be there to bolster you up. They're going to destroy you eventually, and that's what it's all about. The very nature, Chris, of evil is self-destructive. It will destroy you and destroy itself and take you with you. That's just the way it works. It's
Yeah.
like a terrorist and I've seen the aftermath of terrorist bombs with my own eyes. Um, Terrorists, they don't care who they destroy, how many little children they blow up or whatever. They don't care. And that's the way these forces are. They don't care when they blow up. They'll take whoever they want to with them. That's just the way they work. Um, that's the true nature, the evil, dark heart of evil. Is the fact is that there's no sympathy, there's no emotion, there's no caring, there's not one little bit of empathy on their part. They just want to destroy you. Same thing I say. If you want to, know the personification of evil, go jump in a swimming pool full of sharks. You'll find out how much they love you too.
Uh-huh.
That's just the way evil works. But I've had people come to me with many of their problems on the demonic, and here's the key to a lot of it right here. And I tell them this, and it sounds kind of ridiculous, but it's true. These forces. I won't tell that to everybody listening tonight. I said I don't want to leave you people on a bad note tonight. I don't want to depress anybody or scare. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but you got to remember something.
Right.
One very important key when it comes to dealing with the demonic is that they can do nothing to you unless you let them. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to let them. You know what I'm saying? You don't. You have that choice to fight these forces. You have that choice to keep these things out of your life. You have that choice. Nobody else but you. You know, I used to say many years ago, you may do something bad, Chris, but I can't answer for it because you were the one that did. I can't punch your ticket. I can only punch my ticket. Okay,
Right.
I'm the only one that can answer for what I do.
Right.
And that's just the way it goes with
Right.
the demonic as well.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But you know, a lot of the people in medieval times and all that, and I've been in places where, like you said, you're describing earlier, where there was a pentagram. And, you know, I went to a place one night in a basement of an abandoned mill, and I have never felt evil so vivid as I did there. I mean, it was just like you could cut it with a knife. It was so thick. And this room, something bad had happened in this room. There was blood on the walls. There was a pentagram on the floor, and it was a broken pentagram, by the way. Let me explain that a minute. When you make a pentagram, the pentagram is to protect you. You know, a lot of people used to think, oh, you bring the demon up in the middle of the pentagram. No, no, no. You stay in the middle of the pentagram, and the demon appears outside that pentagram. And that circle, that pentagram, is the protection. It's a protective circle. And it's usually made out of different things. I won't get into that now, but there are symbols on it as well. You might have seen some symbols on that one that you were talking about. These symbols are the names of
Uh,
demons and stuff and angels and all. Um, I saw this on this pentagram, and there was, like I said, blood. I don't know what type of blood it was, whether it was animal or human or what. I didn't stay around long enough to find out. But something bad had happened in this room because that pentagram, and I saw it. I knew this was not people just dabbling, a bunch of kids playing around, copying this out of a book. I saw this was the real deal here. I mean, somebody knew what they were doing when they did this. But this
yeah.
pentagram was broken. In other words, when you break a pentagram, you destroy a little bit of it. So the circle is no longer a circle of protection. If you break it, then whatever's outside can get to you. So something very bad happened in that room. Definitely. It didn't
Oh
go the
yeah.
way they wanted to.
No, no. That's for sure.
Hmm. But I had a woman call me years ago, several years back, and she said, Mr. Carroll, I was told to call you because you know something about this. And I said, well, what is it, you know? She said, well, I bought a house the other day, and upstairs, one of the rooms of the house was painted black. The whole room. Windows, floor, ceiling, painted black. Said, of course, there was a black carpet on the floor. I said, well, that's very
Yes, it
strange.
is.
Go back and pull that carpet up and tell me what you find under that carpet. Well, she called me back a few hours later and said, how did you know there was something under that carpet? I said, well, I had a bad feeling there was. What did you find? She said, there was a pentagram up under that carpet. I said, well, somebody was doing something very bad in your house, okay, especially in that room. I said, first of all, first thing you need to do is pull that carpet out of there, paint over that pentagram, paint over the walls, and then paint them white or something, some other color besides black. Paint all that out, and then get that house blessed. Get yourself blessed. Get the whole yard,
Yeah.
everything that's in there, blessed, because who knows what doorway may have been opened at that house, by what means. Because that's a lot, Chris, is what this pentagram and all this stuff is doing. They're opening spiritual doorways to the demonic. And that's how they're
Yeah.
trying to connect up with this power. That's how they get what they want, whether it's, like I said before, revenge or wealth or power or love or whatever it is they're looking for. They hook up with this power to get it. Power of belief has a lot to do with this. I mentioned the other day in Africa, witch doctors, when they can put a curse on you, a death curse for you to die. And people that are cursed by this, they make sure you know that they've done that. They make sure that they know, like if I were going to put a death curse on you tonight, I would make sure that you know that. Why?
Yes.
Because your belief is what activates that curse. And these people believe so much that they're going to die, Chris, they'll sit down and actually die for no reason.
Wow.
They will
Wow.
actually die because they believe it so much. belief is a very strong and important factor in these things.
Yeah,
But belief's a two-way street. It can go for good or bad. And if you let it go bad, it can destroy you. Definitely.
yeah, yeah. That's crazy. I never heard that one before about
Hmm.
them telling them that they was going to die, that they actually died.
Yeah, I mean, you believe it, you're going to die so strongly that you do actually die. You know, that's bad. But and there have been other instances where people that believed that they were going to be healed so strongly that they actually get healed. Belief has
Yeah.
got a lot to do with that. You ever hear about drug tests? When they go to test certain medications, they will give
Um,
people a placebo. You know what a placebo is? A
yeah, like
placebo
a
is
sugar
nothing but
pill.
a sugar pill. That's all
Yeah,
it is. It's
yeah,
nothing.
yeah,
It's no medicine. But they use that as a criteria in the trial to make sure it's not just you thinking this.
yeah,
That you're
yeah,
thinking this, you're getting better.
yeah.
The
That's a good
brain has
thing.
a lot of power to it. Belief.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Hmm.
As far as
Imagination. Imagination is a good thing. Imagination, especially if you're a writer, you definitely need
yeah,
imagination. But now it's good. It's a good thing, but you can use it the wrong way. You got to be careful. Everything in this world can be used the wrong way. And that's the way alchemy began. Alchemy was actually the first science. It's when they tested compounds, but their intentions were not good sometimes because they were trying to make gold or make
yeah,
an elixir of life so they could live forever. But then they
yeah,
started saying, I can't do this in my own natural thing. If I could hook up with some other power that would help me with this. So that's when they really went bad. They went wrong by hooking up with the demonic and evil forces to accomplish some things they wanted to do. But that was the first science. That was the real, truly first science of mankind was
yep,
alchemy. And some things were discovered that were good in alchemy, and a lot of women and men as well in the olden days were thought to be witches because they were root doctors. Now,
yeah,
root doctors were just people that knew about medicine and natural remedies and stuff. And they tried to help people. That was sort of a science too. But
yeah,
uh, but superstition and imagination got the best of some people and destroyed these innocent people, burned them for witches and hung them when they weren't any more of a witch than you and I. But
yeah,
and by the way, I said this the other night, and I'll say it again: witchcraft is not a belief system. Witchcraft is a profession. It is a profession, actually. It's just the way you do it. That's why it's got the word craft on the end of it, like a cabinet
yeah,
maker and all that. But they're sort of more of a profession than. Although some people have taken witchcraft and turned it into a belief system, it didn't
yeah.
originally begin that way. But anyway,
Uh,
um, I'll tell you a quick thing, and it's been known since the days of Egypt that the bark of a willow tree—that's where we get aspirin.
yeah, yeah. I've heard that.
Yeah.
Um, wasn't there like a lot of, like North Carolina? I guess probably even in your part, West Virginia, all up to the Appalachians. Um, didn't we have like older women and older men back in the day that they call witches, but they actually would heal you with herbs and the Bible. Like I heard there's a Bible verse that if you get burnt, you can say something and it'll make the burn go
Well,
away.
a true witch, a so-called witch, was
Um,
supposed to be one who had demonic, familiar spirit, as the Bible says. They were
mm-hmm.
in league with a demon. They had demons. They were really called sorcerers, more or less, than anything else.
Uh-huh.
Um, but they were the real true witches. Now, people, like I said earlier, the ones that were the root doctors, as we call them,
Yeah, yeah,
they were more or less, herbalists. They knew a lot about herbs and stuff and how they helped you. It would help you with certain health problems or whatever. Now, when you draw the line at that, when they start giving you a love potion or something,
Right, right.
that's kind of getting more into witchcraft there, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Or say if you wanted, you wanted your neighbor's cow to dry up, you know, or whatever. So you're getting into more kind of a witchcraft there. But I'm gonna tell you this about the witchcraft trials and all the people that were killed during it. Most of those were innocent people. It
yeah,
was more or less, a way, Chris, to grab land and possessions from people. Oh, they all say Chris is a witch. We'll get his land. We'll get his stuff. You know, we'll get rid
yeah,
of it. That was a land grab. It was just people really blackmailing people and extorting people for the stuff that they wanted. It
yeah,
got out of hand. They were using the church that way. They were using certain doctrines. And unfortunately, some higher church officials were going along with. They were probably getting kickbacks, I guess. But you had a lot
probably.
of corruption in those days on stuff like that. In higher circles, a lot of corruption. Um, and so that's probably where most of that, really got going. There weren't, like I said, any more of a witch than you and I, really, in that aspect. Like I said, though, now some of them may have known about the herbs and all that, and they call that root medicine, basically. It was more or less no more than different than the Native American medicine man or the shaman,
Yeah,
whichever way you want to pronounce it. They knew all about herbs and stuff, and they knew how to, heal sicknesses and all that. That didn't make them witches, you know, for that
yeah,
respect. They were just very knowledgeable people.
right.
I've said this before. Back in the old days, if I had gotten sick, I would have happily went to an Indian, a medicine man. He probably would have helped you better than the
Oh
than the
yeah,
stupid doctors they had that cut your veins open so you could bleed,
yeah,
which
yeah.
made no sense. I believe I would have rather went with the Native American medicine men myself.
Right. Yeah. I watched a show not too long ago on that alchemist Germain, and it was really interesting. Like they thought he kept coming back. Like he was immortal. It was really pretty cool show to watch. And it told about they tried to make gold and silver and all
Mm.
kinds of stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the alchemists they experimented with a lot of different things, different compounds, and different. They were the first chemist, chemical minded people. They experimented with a lot, and if you experiment with stuff like that, you got to be very meticulous in keeping your records, and saying this, how much this you put in, how much of that you put in, or whatever. So they're very meticulous people, and all that. But like I say, some of them got kind of frustrated with the science and kind of turned to the magical
Yeah.
attributes of it, unfortunately. But the ones that did that mainly were the ones that were trying to find the elixir of life, the thing that would make
Yeah.
them live forever if they took it. And that's also called the philosopher's stone, or it was supposed to be a base stone that you could like put in water and drink it every day or something, and you'd live forever. Yeah, and Saint Germain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Supposedly, Saint Germain was the Comte de Saint Germain. That was his full name. Uh, was supposedly an alchemist who supposedly found the elixir of life. They say that he was seen in several different centuries,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he always looked the same. And there's also another legend to Saint Germain is that he was the Wandering Jew. Have you ever heard about the Wandering Jew?
No, I never heard that one.
Well, that's a legend. It's actually a Jewish folklore legend that one of the blacksmiths who forged the nails that they used on Christ was cursed by God to never die. He would wander the world until doomsday, and he was the wandering Jew. He would never get old. He would never die. Uh, he never know hunger, and cold, and all this stuff, which is really is a curse if you want to look at it that way. It's not a good thing to live like that forever because People you know would die, people you love, you'd leave them behind. You still remain the same. But really, it's more of a curse than a blessing.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with the wandering Jew. As a matter of fact, there's a plant named after him too, by the way, a hanging plant.
I
But
didn't
the
know that.
wandering Jew may probably have been, they say, could have been Saint Germain. But here's the interesting thing about Saint Germain. Although he never seemed to get older, nobody ever seen him eat. He would not eat in front of people. He would not eat. He would sit down at meals, but he would never eat.
Yeah, I heard
So
that. I heard
evidently,
that.
yeah, he never evidently didn't need to eat, which sounds very much like an angel type of being, really, or a spiritual being. They don't need to eat. They don't need to drink water. They don't need sustenance like you and I would to survive. Saint Germain, if you were to be someone like Saint Germain and you had found the elixir of life, you probably wouldn't need to eat or drink anymore. That would be it,
Yeah.
or for that matter, even sleep. It was said that he slept very little, so he didn't even need to sleep. So what kind of a real personage was this supposed to be? But he was
Right.
supposed to have been an alchemist that found the elixir of life. Um, the interesting thing about Saint Germain is he still pops up to this day. Some people claim to meet him in different places. So, and you're talking like I think 400 years later, he's still
Yeah.
kicking around.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was really interesting. I want to dip a little more into it. Read up on it some more. But it was really interesting story.
Oh yeah, and the interesting thing about the alchemists, although they were sort of chemists, they were scientists. People didn't look at them that way. They looked at almost as if they were sorcerers or witches, for that matter, because
Uh-huh.
of the things they were trying to do. I mean, if you could come up today and say, "Hey, Dennis, I turned this lead ingot into a gold ingot," I'd say, "Well, you must have done that with witchcraft." That's just the way they looked at it.
Yeah.
Uh, so you had a kind of a bad reputation if you were an alchemist anyway. You
Yeah.
had sort of a shade to you there. Um, so I could see where they would have got that from Saint Germain because he was kind of a shady character.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No doubt.
the alchemists, the reason I studied alchemists because they were fascinating guys, not just because they were trying to live forever and have all the gold they wanted, but they were the very first scientists, really, in that aspect. And that's fascinating to me. They were going down roads that nobody in those days was even thinking about. They were men of higher thinking and learning, I think, in some aspects. And
Yeah.
even they say that since we're here at Christmas, and today, is, by the way, is the winter solstice. This is the darkest night of the year. We're talking about
Oh.
this darkness on.
Oh. Okay.
Um, After today, you'll get a minute of daylight every day from here on out. So the light is prevailing after tonight. But
Yeah.
anyway, the thing about these the alchemists and all these people, to me, is interesting is that they were more intellectual. And since we're talking about this here at Christmas, look at the three wise men. Why were they called wise men? They were sort of the intellectuals of their day. They were sort of the scientists. They saw the star. They followed it. They knew something was going on. They knew about. They were learned men. They knew that this was a prophecy taking place in front of their eyes. So they were sort of like could be linked in with the alchemists, in certain ways because they were men of learning,
Yeah.
scholars. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Yeah.
There's an interesting thing about that, Chris. Back in the day, 9 out of 10 people couldn't read.
Yeah.
You got to think about that. I mean, like the research you're doing, you can read. You got something over 10 of those, almost 9 of those people back then because you can read. They couldn't
Right.
even read their own name. They couldn't even write their own name.
Yeah.
So the people that could read and write, they were the intellect. They were the movers and shakers. They got things done.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never thought of it that way. Yeah.
And stories grew up around them too, because the unlearned people didn't trust them. Hey, that guy can write. I need something shaky about him.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
didn't trust you. Normal people thought, hey, you were probably up to something, or you were in cahoots with the bad guys or something, because you could read and write, and they couldn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's pretty interesting. Well, Dennis, we're getting close to an hour here. Uh,
Mhm.
you want to tell everybody where they can get a hold of you, Dennis, if they want to?
Yeah, you can reach me at DennisWCarroll.com. That's DennisWCarroll.com. And my email, if you want any questions or whatever, my email is ghostwolfdc, that's one word, at gmail.com. If you want to contact me that way. And like I say, if you have any problems, questions, or whatever, that's what I do. I'm a consultant. I consult with people on these things. If you have, anything you want to ask me, feel free to do so anytime. That's what I'm here for. If we can't help each other out when we need to, what are we here for? But
Right, right.
I want to say this tonight to kind of end the show. A little prayer that will protect all of us, if you don't mind.
No
Um,
problem.
it's the very famous St. Michael's prayer. Saint Michael, Archangel, defend us this day in battle against the snares and wickedness of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, Prince of the heavenly host, by the divine power of God, cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits that wander throughout the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen.
Amen.
That's a good protective prayer for people, especially if you're talking a lot about dark forces and all that. They hate that prayer, along with the Lord's Prayer. That's another good one. And the 91st
Right.
Psalm is a good one too, along with the 23rd Psalm. So if you're ever feel like these forces are coming against you, you have help. You have spiritual help. It's very always there at hand. And you got people like me and Chris here. You can get in contact with us. We'll certainly do what we can to help you that as well. That's what we're here for, to help out and transfer information. That's the important thing.
Yeah. Hey, Dennis, you want to tell them about your books and you got a new show coming up, right?
Yeah, I've got a
You'll be
couple
doing
of
here pretty soon.
yeah, I got a couple of books that you can get on several books on Amazon. You can just look it up under Dennis Carroll. I have two main books on the paranormal, which are Beyond the Shadows, a field guide to the paranormal, and then I have The Road Unseen, which is a paranormal journey into high strangeness. That's my favorite one, by the way. I've got that. I got some more coming out. I'm working on one now called Things of Nightmare. The doorways are open. So that's another one I'm working on, and of course I will be producing pretty soon a short video series called The Midnight Road Excursions into the Unknown. There'll be 10-minute videos of some of the cases that I've done and some other interesting stories I think you'll find enlightening, maybe.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, if you guys need me, my things on the bottom. If you need to contact me, I'm countryboycryptids@gmail.com, all one word. And we thank you, Dennis, for being on here. You can also see
My
Dennis
pleasure.
on Night High Strangeness on on Fridays and at I think 10, and Saturday and Sunday at 10 in the morning.
That's
So
right. Yep.
yeah,
And,
yeah, I appreciate you
and
coming on
I
here,
get in the
Dennis.
red rabbit hole sometimes too. That's on Friday nights, usually about I think
Oh
10
yeah,
o'clock. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I want to wish everybody out there a Merry Christmas, and
Yep.
have a good time with your friends and family. Um,
Merry Christmas to everybody and Happy New
Anything you want to
Year.
add there, Dennis? Well, I'll see you next. I'll have to post it. I believe our next guest is going to be Les Odell. He's from West Virginia. We went to school together. He's a Bigfoot researcher, UFOs, paranormal. Uh, he's boots on the ground. So yeah. Merry Christmas again, and we'll see you all next Wednesday or Thursday. I'll with you. Good night.